In 2008, a Russian man received junk mail. A credit card offer. You know the type, glossy paper, fake, urgent, stamp, terms and conditions in font so small you'd need a microscope and a law degree. Most people throw these away. He didn't throw it away. He scanned it, opened Photoshop, and rewrote the entire contract. 0% interest. No fees. No credit limit. And here's the kicker. If the bank ever tried to cancel his card, they owed him 6 million rubles. He signed it. Mailed it back. And the bank? They signed it too. Without reading a single word. 2 years later, when they sued him for unpaid fees, he pulled out that contract. Countersued. And won. Welcome to Loophole Legends. Tonight, I've got 3 stories of ordinary people who went toe-to-toe with billion-dollar giants, and didn't just survive. They won. A man who turned a $250,000 airline pass into $21 million worth of free flights. A shadowy army of internet hackers who tricked the US government into paying them to take free money. And the Russian who weaponized fine print against the bank that wrote it. These aren't criminals. These aren't geniuses. These are people who did something revolutionary. They read the terms and conditions. Let's get into it.
Okay, so here's the thing you gotta understand about 1981. American Airlines was bleeding money. Like, hemorrhaging. The airline industry was a mess, fuel prices were insane, and these executives were sitting in boardrooms trying to figure out how to get cash fast. And someone, I genuinely wish I knew who, pitched the dumbest idea in corporate history. The Air Pass. For $250,000, you could buy unlimited first-class travel on American Airlines. For life. And for an extra $150,000, you could add a companion pass, meaning you could bring anyone, anywhere, anytime. Now, $250,000 in 1981 is like $800,000 today. So this wasn't for regular people. This was for CEOs, celebrities, the ultra-wealthy. I was a businessman in Chicago. Investments, mostly. I traveled constantly, New York, LA, London. First class every time because, honestly, once you fly first class, you can't go back to coach. You just can't. My accountant ran the numbers. If I was already spending $60,000, $70,000 a year on flights, this thing would pay for itself in 4 years. So I bought it. The pass and the companion upgrade. $400,000 total. And here's what American Airlines didn't understand. I read the contract. The whole thing. Every clause. Unlimited meant unlimited. No blackout dates. No restrictions. No cap on flights. If I wanted to fly to London for lunch, I could fly to London for lunch. So that's exactly what I did. Look, I know how this sounds. Oh, this rich guy is just being excessive. And yeah, maybe. But the way I saw it, I paid for unlimited. That's what unlimited means. I'd wake up in Chicago, decide I wanted breakfast at this little cafe in Paris I loved, and just go. Book a flight at the counter, sit in first class, land in Paris, have my croissant, fly back. One time, I flew to London specifically to see a play. Didn't even stay overnight. Watched the show, had dinner, flew home. I logged over 10,000 flights. American Airlines estimated I cost them $21 million. But here's where it gets interesting, the companion pass. See, the pass said I could bring a companion. It didn't say the same companion. It didn't say I had to know them beforehand. So I started meeting people at airports. I'd see someone struggling at the counter, flight got canceled, couldn't afford a ticket, whatever. And I'd just walk up and say, "Hey, you want to fly first class?" On me. Their faces. Every single time. Absolute disbelief. I flew strangers to weddings. To funerals. To job interviews they couldn't afford to get to. One time, I met a guy who was trying to visit his dying mother but his flight was overbooked. Walked him right onto my companion seat. Was I doing it to be generous? Partly. Was I also doing it because it was hilarious to cost American Airlines money every time they annoyed me? Also partly. I'm not gonna pretend I was a saint here. By 2008, American Airlines had a problem. The AirPass program, which was supposed to generate quick cash, had become a financial black hole. A handful of us, maybe 30, 40 people total, were costing them tens of millions annually. So they did what corporations do. They launched an investigation. They hired a team specifically to find reasons to revoke our passes. They went through my flight records. Every single one. They interviewed gate agents. They analyzed my companion bookings. Their accusation? I was booking phantom passengers. Basically, they claimed I was reserving companion seats for people who didn't exist just to block American from selling those seats. That I was costing them money on purpose. Here's the thing, I wasn't booking phantoms. I was booking real people. Sometimes those people canceled. Sometimes I'd reserve a seat thinking a friend would come, and they'd bail. That's life. But the burden of proof was on them, and they had private investigators following me for 2 years. 2 years. They revoked my pass in 2008. I sued, obviously. We settled out of court. I can't discuss the terms, but I will say this. I flew first class for 27 years. I visited over 40 countries. I helped dozens of strangers get where they needed to go. And I got to watch a billion-dollar corporation slowly realize that unlimited means unlimited. They stopped selling the AirPass after that. Can't imagine why.
10,000 flights. $21 million. One very angry airline. You gotta respect the commitment. This man treated international travel like most people treat DoorDash. I'm craving Paris. Click. But here's the thing, American Airlines wrote that contract. They priced it. They marketed it. They just never expected someone to actually use it the way the contract allowed. That was one wealthy opportunist versus one airline. But what happens when an entire army of anonymous internet strangers discovers a glitch in the federal government's payment system? Our next story isn't about a single genius. It's about a swarm. Thousands of ordinary people who turned the US Mint into their personal ATM. And the government couldn't do a damn thing about it.
So I'm what you'd call a credit card churner. Never heard that term? Basically, I'm the guy who signs up for credit cards specifically to exploit the rewards programs. Sign-up bonuses, cash back, airline miles, I treat it like a game. And I'm really, really good at it. By 2008, I'd already figured out most of the standard tricks. Buy gift cards, liquidate them, collect the points. Manufactured spending, they call it. The credit card companies know about it, they just can't really stop it without hurting regular customers too. But in 2008, the United States government accidentally created the most beautiful loophole I'd ever seen. The US Mint had a problem. They'd been making these presidential dollar coins, you know, the gold ones with the dead presidents on them, but nobody was using them. They were piling up in Federal Reserve vaults. Billions of dollars worth, just sitting there. So some bureaucrat had a brilliant idea, let's sell them directly to the public. They set up a website. You could order coins at face value, $1 per coin. And to encourage people to actually buy them? Free shipping. And you could pay with a credit card. You see where this is going. The first time I saw this, I actually laughed out loud. I thought there was no way this was real. I thought there had to be a catch. So I tested it. I ordered $500 in coins. Used my 2% cashback card. The coins arrived in a few days, these heavy boxes of dollar coins. I walked into my bank, deposited them, and paid off the credit card. $500 in, $500 out. Except I'd earned $10 in cashback rewards for doing absolutely nothing. Okay, cool. $10 isn't life-changing. But what if I scaled it up? What if I ordered $10,000 in coins? That's $200 in free money. Every single month. Now here's the thing, I'm not a genius. I'm just a guy on the internet. And within a few weeks, this glitch had spread through every credit card forum, every travel hacking community, every rewards optimization Discord. Thousands of people figured this out simultaneously. And we went hard. Some people were ordering $50,000 a month. $100,000 a month. I heard about one guy who ordered over $1 million in coins over the course of the program. Think about the logistics of that. These are physical coins. Heavy. You gotta pick them up from your door, load them into your car, drive them to the bank, deposit them, and then do it all again next week. People were showing up at banks with hand trucks. Dolly carts stacked with coin boxes. The bank tellers had no idea what was happening. One guy said his bank started recognizing him and would groan when he walked in. Another guy's local branch literally asked him to stop coming. But here's the beautiful part, there was nothing illegal about it. We weren't counterfeiting. We weren't committing fraud. We were buying real currency at face value and depositing it. The fact that we got rewards points in the middle wasn't our problem. It was the government's problem. By 2011, the US Mint realized they'd created a monster. They'd wanted to get coins into circulation. Instead, they'd built a free money machine for internet nerds. The coins weren't circulating, they were going straight from the mint, to our houses, to bank vaults, right back into the Federal Reserve System. And the credit card companies were hemorrhaging rewards payouts. They were paying us to move coins in a circle. The mint quietly added a "no credit cards" policy. Then they added purchase limits. Then, eventually, they just killed the whole direct ship program. They never admitted why. But we all knew. So how much did we make? Nobody knows the full number. But I personally made around $30,000 in pure rewards over 3 years. Some of the big operators made 6 figures. And the best part? When the program ended, we just moved on. Found the next glitch. That's what churners do. The government learned an expensive lesson: when you build a system, assume thousands of strangers on the internet will try to break it. Because we will.
Beautiful, isn't it? A decentralized army of reward point obsessives versus the entire United States Treasury. And the nerds won. The coin program was a policy failure, but you can't really blame the bureaucrats. They were trying to solve a real problem. Nobody was using dollar coins. They just didn't anticipate that their solution would attract thousands of people whose literal hobby is exploiting exactly these kinds of systems. The airline pass. That was one man, one contract. The coin loophole. That was a swarm, no organization, just chaos. But our final story. This is something different. This is a man who didn't just find a loophole in the system. He didn't just exploit a flaw someone else left behind. He grabbed a contract, opened a word processor, and wrote his own rules. And then he got a bank to sign them. This is the final job.
The credit card offer came in the mail on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were always when the junk mail arrived. Catalogs, flyers, and, every few months, some bank trying to convince me I desperately needed another credit card. This one was from Tinkoff Bank. Young company, very aggressive marketing. The envelope was bright, the paper was glossy, and the offer was "PRE approved," in big letters. I almost threw it away. Almost. But I'd just finished a long day at work, and I was bored, and for some reason, I decided to actually read the thing. Not skim it. Read it. The terms were, predictably, terrible. High interest rate. Annual fees. Late payment penalties. All the standard stuff banks bury in font so small you'd need a magnifying glass. And that's when I had the idea. What if I just changed it? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a hacker. I'm just a guy who knows how to use a scanner in Photoshop. I scanned the application, opened it on my computer, and started editing. First, I removed the interest rate. 0%. Forever. Then I removed all the fees. Annual fee? Gone. Late payment fee? Gone. Overlimit fee? Gone. Then, and this was the fun part, I added a cancellation clause. If the bank cancels this agreement or changes any terms without the cardholder's consent, the bank agrees to pay the cardholder 6 million rubles. That's about 90,000 US dollars at the time. I printed it out, signed it, and mailed it back to Tinkoff Bank. Now, here's what I figured would happen: nothing. I assumed someone at the bank would actually read the application, see my ridiculous changes, and either reject it or call me to ask what the hell I was doing. That's not what happened. 3 weeks later, I got a credit card in the mail, with a letter confirming my account had been opened. Under my terms. They hadn't read it. They just processed it. Some clerk somewhere had looked at a signed application and stamped it approved without checking whether the terms were the same ones they'd sent. I sat there holding this card, and I genuinely didn't know what to do. Was this real? Was this legally binding? Only one way to find out. I used the card. Carefully at first, small purchases, just to see if it worked. It worked. Then bigger purchases. Electronics. Travel. I wasn't going crazy, but I was definitely spending. And every month, the bill would come, and I would make the minimum payment. Or sometimes no payment. Because according to my contract, the one they signed, I owed no interest. No fees. 2 years went by like this. And then Tinkoff Bank decided to sue me. They claimed I owed them 45,000 rubles in unpaid fees and interest. About 1,400 US dollars. Plus penalties. Plus collection costs. Their lawyers showed up to court with the standard contract, the one they'd sent me in the mail. The one with the high interest rates and all the fees. And I showed up with the contract they actually signed. The judge looked at both documents. Compared them. Asked the bank's lawyers to explain why their client had agreed to a 0% interest rate and a 6 million ruble cancellation penalty. They couldn't explain it. Because they didn't know. Their own legal department had never seen my version of the contract. Some processing clerk had approved it, and nobody in management even knew it existed until I pulled it out in court. The judge's ruling was simple: a contract is a contract. Both parties signed it. Both parties are bound by it. Not only did I not owe Tinkoff Bank anything, I countersued for 24 million rubles, claiming they'd violated my contract by attempting to charge me fees I never agreed to. Now, I have to be honest. We eventually settled. I didn't get 24 million. But I didn't pay them anything either. The case got thrown around for a while, there was a lot of media attention, and eventually we reached an agreement I'm not supposed to discuss. But here's what mattered: the court confirmed that my modified contract was legally valid. A bank sent me a contract. I changed it. They signed it without reading. And the law said, that's their problem. People ask me if I feel bad about it. Honestly? No. Banks spend millions of dollars on lawyers specifically to write contracts that are confusing and one-sided. They count on customers not reading. They exploit that information asymmetry every single day. All I did was use their own tactics against them. They wrote the rules of the game. I just played by them. If Tinkoff Bank had read their own application before signing it, none of this would have happened. But they didn't. Because they assumed I wouldn't read it either. They assumed wrong.
3 jobs. 3 legends. 3 different approaches. The first one played a long game. He bought his ticket, read the fine print, and spent 27 years proving that unlimited means unlimited. The airline never expected someone to actually hold them to their word. The second was a swarm. Thousands of anonymous optimizers who saw a flaw in the government's payment system and exploited it together until the whole thing collapsed. No leaders. No organization. Just collective greed. And the third? The third rewrote the rules entirely. He took a weapon designed to be used against him and turned it around. Made the bank sign their own defeat. Here's what these stories have in common. None of these people broke the law. None of them committed fraud. All of them simply read the terms, and then held the other side accountable to them. The corporations and governments in these stories wrote the rules. They designed the systems. They had armies of lawyers and compliance officers and risk managers. And they still lost. Because they made one fatal assumption: that nobody would read the fine print. The lesson here isn't, exploit every loophole you find. That's a good way to eventually get in actual trouble. The lesson is, the rules are written by someone. And whoever wrote them had their own interests in mind, not yours. So read everything. Question everything. And remember, the fine print is where they hide the truth. If you made it this far, you're officially part of the crew. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and drop a comment telling me, what's the best loophole you've ever exploited? I read every single one. And the best stories? They might just end up in the next video. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and always read the contract.